Take a good look around. I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. If not, let me know. I might have it stored away.
A fight.
My money's on the big one.
Get him! Kill him!
How do you do, Thane?
Have you come to gawk at me, or is this a social call?
I have some information about Sweetie.
Good. Good. Just point me in the right direction, and I'll do the rest.
She's made her way east into Morrowind.
So, the whore thinks the Blackbriar Reach ends at the border of Skyrim, eh? She'll soon discover her mistake. You've done me a great service, my friend. Allow me to compensate you for the information. This key opens one of my stashes in the basement of the meadery. Help yourself to any of its contents. Visit me anytime. I'm not going anywhere soon.
A pleasure, Thane.
It's actually quite beautiful here.
I know someone there.
I will protect you, Dragonborn.
You will be an must abide my hand. Your soul belongs to Mirak.
Fuck off.
You won't win.
Like
What was that?
Over here.
Can't decide if I get shit scared when I'm in a fight, but I find it a bit thrilling to watch. Know what I mean? Bit of all things. We should head back home sometime and check on the children.
Frost's identity papers. Lineage papers for the prize stallion Frost. Deed of ownership. Horse, Frost. Sex, stallion. Color, mealy chestnut. Sire, grain. Great-grandsire, Sleipnir. Dam, unknown. Great-damsire, Loka.
Walking to
Someday, get myself an island.
Ha! You've done it! Got to admit, I wasn't sure you could pull it off. But you've definitely earned your pay.
Speaking of my pay,
Yes, yes, here it is. I think I'd best be off now.
Need something?
Pull up a seat. Have a drink.
I've completed the numbers job.
And here's the spoils. Plenty more where this came from.
I heard you're offering extra work.
I handle the fishing, numbers and bedlam jobs. The ones with a more personal touch. If breaking's are more your thing, go talk to Vex.
Do you have any numbers jobs?
Okay, got just the one for you. Ledger's just begging to be changed, and the guild could use the coin. How about it?
I'll do it.
Here's everything you need. You get caught, and we've never heard of you.
I'm glad you're here.
What's the significance of this place?
This is the headquarters of the Nightingales, cut into the mountainside by the first of our kind. We've come to seek the edge we need to defeat Mercer Frey.
What kind of an edge?
If you'll follow me, I'll try to explain on the way.
Tell me about the Nightingales.
Gallus, Mercer Frey and I were once members of what's known as the Nightingale Trinity. The Trinity disbanded 25 years ago when Mercer Frey betrayed us by slaying Gallus and dumping his body in the ruins of Snowvale Sanctum.
Were they a part of the Thieves' Guild?
Indirectly. The Trinity is usually selected from the ranks of the Guild, although its existence is a closely guarded secret.
What is their purpose?
The Nightingales protect the Temple of Nocturnal, a place known as the Twilight Sepulchre.
Who is Nocturnal?
She's the mistress of night and darkness, and the patron of every thief in Tamriel.
I never met a thief that worshipped anything.
Nocturnal isn't one for worship and reverence. There are no priests and no sermons, no services and no alms. She influences our luck, and in return, demands payment.
Sounds like a guild contract.
You're closer to understanding than you realize. The only difference is she doesn't demand payment in the traditional sense, and sometimes the cost can be quite high. Whether you know it or not, Nocturnal dictates how well we perform as rogues.
I have my skill, not powers or magic.
Again, you have to think differently. Haven't you ever noticed how our luck behaves? Like a novice picking an impossible lock, or a blind man suddenly turning to face you as you reach for his pocket. It's through these subtle means that Nocturnal influences us.
Sounds like she just likes us to suffer.
Nocturnal's whim is the greatest mystery to everyone. There have been volumes written on the subject. Does she exact payment when we die? When we suffer, does she revel in our misery? No one knows. The return certainly seems worth the risk, though.
Am I to become a Nightingale?
It's my hope that you will, yes. This way, please.
That cave could make good shelter, provided we clear out whatever's inside.
So this is Nightingale Hall. I heard about this place when I joined the guild, but I never believed it existed.
The assumption that the Nightingales were just a myth was seeded within the guild on purpose. It helped divert attention from our true nature. What's wrong with your love? I can almost hear your brow furrowing.
I'm trying to understand why I'm here, lass. I'm no priest, and I'm certainly not religious. Why pick me?
This isn't about religion, Brynjolf. It's business. This is Nightingale Hall. You're the first of the uninitiated to set foot inside in over a century. Now, if you'll both proceed to the armory to don your Nightingale armor, we can begin the oath.
I think we should trust the lass and take the deal.
You appear hesitant to don your Nightingale armor. Let's try it.
If you hear someone screaming, remember, it's not me.
Time's wasted, and Mercer's still out there. Let's get this show on the road. I think we should trust the lass and take the deal. I think we should trust the lass and take the deal.
You appear hesitant. don your Nightingale armor. What's troubling you?
Time's wasting, and Mercer's still out there. Let's get this show on the road.
You appear ready for the oath.
How are you feeling, my love? Until next time. A Nightingale, eh? Here I thought they were only legends. Then
Now
again,
what?
so were
Beyond
dragons.
this gate is the first step in becoming a Nightingale.
Whoa there, lass. I appreciate the armor, but becoming a Nightingale? That was never discussed.
To hold any hope of defeating Mercer, we must have Nocturnal at our backs. If she's to accept you as one of her own, an arrangement must be struck.
What sort of arrangement? I need to know the terms.
The terms are quite simple, Brynjolf. Nocturnal will allow you to become a Nightingale and use your abilities for whatever you wish. And in return, both in life and in death, you must serve as a guardian of the Twilight Sepulchre.
Aye, there's always a catch. But at this point, I suppose there isn't much to lose. If it means the end of Mercer Frey, you can count me in.
What about you? Are you ready to transact the oath with Nocturnal?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good. After I open the gate, please stand on the circle.
Time's wasting, and Mercer's still out there. Let's get this show on the road.
We'll speak when the oath is complete.
I think we should trust the lass and take the deal.
We'll speak when the oath is complete.
There's something the matter.
Queen of Murk, and Empress of Shadow, hear my voice.
Ah, Karliah. I was wondering when I'd hear from you again. Lose something, did we?
My lady, I've come before you to throw myself upon your mercy, and to accept responsibility for my failure.
You're already mine, Karliah. Your terms were struck long ago. What could you possibly offer me now?
I have two others that wish to transact the oath, to serve you both in life and in death.
You surprise me, Karliah. This offer is definitely weighted in my favor.
The sooner we see the sky,
My
get
appetite
better.
for Mercer's demise exceeds my craving for wealth, Your Grace.
Revenge. How interesting. Very well. The conditions are acceptable. You may proceed.
Lady Nocturnal, we accept your terms. We dedicate ourselves to you as both your avengers and your sentinels. We will honor our agreement in this life and the next until your conditions have been met.
Very well. I name your initiates Nightingale, and I restore your status to the same, Karliah. And in the future, I'd suggest you refrain from disappointing me again.
Now that you've transacted the oath, it's time to reveal the final piece of the puzzle to you. Mercer's true crime.
He's done more?
Mercer was able to unlock the Guild's vault without 2 keys because of what he stole from the Twilight Sepulchre. The skeleton key. By doing this, he's compromised our ties to Nocturnal, and in essence, caused our luck to run dry.
So the key unlocks any door?
Well, yes. But the key isn't only restricted to physical barriers. All of us possess untapped abilities, The potential to wield great power securely sealed within our minds. Once you realize the key can access these traits, the potential becomes limitless.
Sounds like no one should possess it.
Good. Then you understand why this is about more than just Mercer's lust for power. If the key isn't returned to its lock in the Twilight Sepulchre, things will never be the same for the Guild. As time passed, our luck would diminish to the point of non-existence, and whether you know it or not, our uncanny luck defines our trade.
First time I ever set out to return something.
Very true. In our line of work, it's quite rare we set out to return a stolen item to its rightful owner.
Let's go.
Before we depart, Brynjolf has some business to discuss. I suggest you listen to him.
Listen, lass. There's one last piece of business we need to settle before we go after Mercer. The leadership of the Guild. Listen, lass. There's one last piece of business we need to settle before we go after Mercer. The leadership of the Guild.
Why tell this to me?
Karliah and I had a long discussion before you arrived here. Thanks to your efforts, Mercer's treachery has been exposed. After we deal with him, all that remains is restoring the Guild to its full strength. As a result, we both feel that you have the potential of replacing Mercer as leader of the Thieves Guild.
Me? What about you?
I've been at this game a long time, my friend. A long time. I've stolen trinkets from nobles and framed priests for murder. I'm good at what I do, maybe even one of the best, but it's all I know. I've never been one to lead. Never desired it, never cared for it. Don't want it.
It's about time you asked.
Ha! Spoken like the leader of the Thieves Guild. Just don't lose yourself in the role. We have a bit of an errand to run before your coronation.
I accept.
Then it's decided. When this is all over and Delvin's contacts assure me that we've regained our footing in Skyrim, we'll handle the details. Until then, we have quite the task ahead.
Then let's get to it.
I've been poring over the plans you brought us, and I'm convinced the eyes of the Falmer are in the Dwarven ruins at Erkenthan. Karliah and I will meet you there. Prepare yourself, lass. This will be a fight to remember.
I guess we're Nightingales now.
Aye. And some of what Karliah said is starting to make sense. Mercer may have damaged our reputation and raided our coffers, but this goes well beyond even his twisted form of larceny. Old Delvin kept calling it a curse, and we all laughed at him. Looks like the joke's on us.
Do you think we stand a chance against Mercer?
If you would have asked me that yesterday, I'd have said no. But now I think our chances have improved. Look, call me crazy if you like, but I trust Karliah. I don't think she'd lead us down a suicidal path. Besides, I'd rather die with some of Mercer's blood on my blade than spend the rest of my life regretting that I ran the other way. Sorry, lass. I've got important things to do. We'll speak another time. Sorry, lass. I've got important things to do. We'll speak another time.
May I ever return to Nightingale Hall?
Yes. Now that you're a Nightingale, you may consider this your home. You'll find that this place offers many things that will help you in your endeavors, as well as a wealth of information for you to learn. Once the skeleton key has been restored to the Twilight Sepulchre, I'll make this place my home as well.
I don't feel stronger.
With the skeleton key missing from the Twilight Sepulchre, I'm afraid Mercer's seen to it that none of us can benefit from Nocturnal's gifts.
But she spoke to us.
You merely transacted the oath, signed the unwritten contract with Nocturnal. In order for us to receive our abilities, our end of the bargain, I'm afraid the key must be returned.
Then Nocturnal's angry at us?
If Nocturnal was truly displeased with me, with any of us, she wouldn't have answered my call. I have no doubt that we still hold her favor, and I believe it gives us enough of an edge to defeat Mercer Frey.
Places like this, silence doesn't feel like silence. It always feels like it's real, holding its breath.
Don't even think about it.
Jedathar's note. Mark information for a Thalmor assassin. Description of target. Bosmer male, goes by Malborn. Believed to be working for the Blades, so approach with caution. He has inside knowledge of our procedures, so he will be warier than usual. Malborn is not his real name. He's now been identified as a survivor of a family of traitors who were all believed to have died in a fire in Falinesti. Do not risk him evading us. He is likely trying to leave Skyrim. Make sure of your kill and do not implicate us.
It looks like
Come on in. Let me know if you need anything, or take a seat by the fire and I'll send someone over.
I thought the Grey Quarter would be a haven for my kind. I was wrong.
Yes? Need something?
The Thalmor assassin is dead. It's safe to leave Windhelm.
That's great news. I'd better go, right now, before they find me again. This is my chance. Thank you. Here. I stole a lot from the Thalmor over the years. You may as well have some of it.
Let me know if you see anything you like.
You are now a Nightingale. You serve Nocturnal now.
Yes, I hope I've done the right thing. Nocturnal doesn't seem so bad.
I heard she seems to care for mortals. But she's still a Daedric prince. And I do not trust the Daedra, regardless. You'll be expected to guard the Twilight Sepulchre for eternity now. That's quite a commitment.
It was a business deal, that's all. Nocturnal has no claim to my soul, it's mine.
Aye. If anyone can find a loophole, oh, it'll be you. Still, I can't help but think that Karliah pulled off quite the heist, adding you and Brynjolf to Nocturnal service. Every time I look at you, I fall in love all over again.
Get some clothes back on.
Aye, alright. Moving on.
All my goods are legitimate, which is more than I can say for some.
Nothing in here is stolen? Nothing at all?
Of course nothing in here is stolen. Only a careless, shameful, idiotic fetcher would do something as stupid as to buy pilfered goods. Oh, by Azura, I've made a terrible mistake. I bought a gold ring, and Viola Giordano has been missing a ring that looks just like it.
I could return the ring for you.
It's not that easy. She'd go to the Jarl if she knew I was even remotely involved. You have to get it to her some other way. Look, it's dangerous. But if you sneak the ring into her house, put it in a dresser or something, I will make it worth your while.
I'd like to make an investment in your business.
Excellent. I think you'll be glad that you made this decision.
Let's see what you can do with this.
Thank you. I'll be sure to put it to good use.
Who supplies your goods?
I've scraped this collection together by whatever means I could. I do some business with the trade caravans, and I've picked up a number of items from adventurers like yourself. A few intrepid souls even brought some items back from Morvenskar, the fort southwest of the city.
What have you got for sale?
Take a look. Don't let Viola catch you in her house. Sneak that ring back to Viola before we both get caught.
The best way for us to win the Nord's respect is through hard work.
Hear my prayers, Vakatosh.
You know about Talos? He founded the Empire. To receive the blessing of Talos, you have only to pray at the altar.
Tell me about Talos.
Talos, who in life was known as Tiber Septim, united Tamriel and founded the Empire. He was rewarded for his deeds by being joined with the Divines in eternal glory, the only mortal to do so. We worship him that we might follow in his path. We can't literally join him in the heavens, but we may do our best to know them here on Nirn.
Are the people of Windhelm devout?
Like anyone, a crisis will push them towards devotion. I've been seeing a lot of the Shatter Shields since they lost their daughter. Hilevi Cruelseat comes in a lot, but I haven't seen her husband here in years. Ulfric prays for strength. I speak to Captain Lonelygale, but he doesn't spend much time here. Too busy.
What does Talos have to do with the war?
The Empire's elven puppet masters never cared much for the idea of a human becoming a divine, so the worship of Talos is outlawed. Skyrim doesn't take kindly to being told what to do, and to try and forget Talos, well, they may as well ordered us all to cut off our ears. Blessings of Talos be upon you.
This place sells a lot of crap.
What do you need, my friend?
Take a good look around. I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. If not, let me know. I might have it stored away.
You need to tell your boys to play nice, Delvin. Almost threw two of
Well,
them in the
looks
well
like
last
you're
night.
fitting in well down here.
They ain't.
I'm
Something
supposed to allow
troubling
you
you?
to read it.
I'll listen.
Tell your boss that rough is rough.
I've completed the numbers job.
Couldn't have done it better myself. Here's your coin.
I'm ready for some extra work.
Good. My clients are getting impatient.
What's going on between you
Do you have any numbers jobs?
Have a client looking to have a rival's business ledger changed. Don't know the reason, and don't want to know. Count you in.
That's all they are.
I'll do it.
Nice. Yeah, this is what you'll need to know. Pull up a... Have a drink. Something troubling you? Oh, listen.
You're back! Did you bring me anything?
Yes, I did.
Wow, really? What do you get me? Thanks!
What do you need, my Thane?
I'm here to collect the plantation's profits.
Very good, ma'am. Farewell.
Are you holding up all right?
Any thoughts?
You move well in light armor, but I still can't trust it myself. Feels like I need to be ready to jump in front of every blade and arrow that comes your way.
Right, let's get going.
Ah, it's so nice to be home with the kids.
Lost Caravan Guard's note. We crossed into Skyrim under the cover of Ashfall. As far as anyone knows, we're shipping refugees. Just one in a long line of vagrant caravans escaping the wrath of the Red Mountain. Normally, a story like that would be enough to get us through, but not this time. Now, I've been a caravan guard for some time, and I've seen some pretty extensive security measures. Locks, chains, the works. One client even had a conjurer summon a Daedra to guard his wagon, but even compared to that, this seems excessive. For one, everyone has a code name. The cargo, the guards, even the horse. As for the caravans, to keep it familiar, we've each been given a name from one of the great houses. Of course, some of the guards didn't like that part. One of the new bloods said he'd rather bend the knee to a guar than wear the name of House Durez. But Captain Inidos brought him in line with the point of his blade, and the rest followed. You'd think the Red Year would unite us, but it seems there's old scars that haven't healed, and old scores that haven't been settled. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. The job's the job. Like the captain said, at least they didn't name us after the boots. We've also got several decoy caravans heading out through Skyrim, all the way to some undisclosed locations in Hammerfell. But since that's not enough, each caravan will meet up at preset checkpoints and swap their items out. That means different decoys traveling different paths every step of the way. With the refugee garb, they say we should blend right in, and on the off chance we don't, we've got runners set to flee to the next village, hidden compartments, anything you can think of. Still, if you ask me, all of it sounds like a waste of time. I'm no scholar, but those 2 bits of cargo don't look like anything special. Just a fancy way to bash some poor fellah's skull in. With all the chaos bleeding out of Vardenfell, we've made it to Windhelm without so much as a paper cut. Come morning, we're headed out west along the river toward Nightgate Inn. If all goes well, we'll reach the mountain pass by midday. Still, we'd get there sooner if not for all the stops. "36 Lessons of Vivec, Sermon 26. Then Vivec left his architectural rapture and went back to the space that was not a space. From the provisional house he looked into the middle world to find the 4th monster, called the Pocket Cabal. The monster hid itself in the spell lists of the great chimeri wizards at the extreme east, where the Emperor Parasols grew wild. Vivec disguised himself as a simple traveler, but radiated a tenuous sense fabric so that the wizards would seek him out. Of Muatra he made a simple walking dwarf. Before long, the Invisible One was among the libraries of the East, feeding the essential words of the Pocket Cabal to his walking dwarf, and then running when the magic would fail. After a year or 2 of this thievery, Muatra was sick to its stomach, and the walking dwarf exploded near the slave pens of a wizard's tower. The Pocket Cabal then slipped itself into the mouths of the slaves and hid again. Vivec then watched as the slaves erupted into babble and breaking magic. They rattled their cages and sung out half-hymns that formed into forbidden and arcane knowledge. Litany fiends appeared and drank from the excess. Grabbers from the adjacent plane came into the world sideways, the slave talking having disrupted the normal non-cardinal points. So of course a giant bug appeared, with the great eastern wizard inside it. He could see past Vivec's disguise and knew of the warrior poet's divinity, but he thought himself so powerful that he talked harshly. "See what you have wrought, silly triune! Columns of nonsense and litany fiends! I cannot believe how reason or temperance can be made whole again due to your eating, eating, eating! Consort with more demons, why don't you?" Vivec stabbed the wizard through his soul. The giant bug harness fell on the slave cages, and the slaves ran about free and reckless, too reckless, more with pregnant words. Colors bent into the earth. Vivec created a dome-head demon to contain it all. The Pocket Cabal is therefore interred here forever. Let this be a cursed land where sorcery is broken and maligned. Then he picked up Muatra by the beard and left the ghostly hemisphere of the dome-head demon. On its boundaries, Vivec placed a warning and a song of entrance that contained errors in it. With mock bones of half-dead Muatra, he created the tent poles of a fortress theory, and fatal languages were imprisoned for all time. Set appeared and looked upon what his brother-sister had created. The Clockwork King said, "Of the 8 monsters, this is the most confusing. May I treasure it?" Vivec gave Set leave to do so, but told him never to release the Pocket Cabal into the middle world. He said, "I have hidden secrets of my travels here and made a likeness of Muatra to ward against the unwise. Under this dome, the temporal myth is no longer man. The ending of the words is Sivi." Harvest's End 3E172, Talmarag Ker's researches on the exploits and studies of Chimera Gragan. The book contains many pages of close, tightly written scribbling. The earliest entry is marked Harvest's End 3E172. Only the first few pages make sense. Later entries are incoherent and illegible. In the first few pages you will learn the basic story of Chimera, Master Sorcerer, Summoner, and Direni Retainer, and how he treated with Lord Dagon, tricked him, and paid the price of his victory. Searching for details of Chimera's successful defeat of Dagon, you find information on the armor of the Savior's hide, Dagon's protonymic, and the rituals of the hunt. Chimera Gragan was a retainer of the ambitious Direni clan. The Direni derived the bulk of their power from their traffickings with Daedra, a very profitable but risky path to success. Chimera was perhaps the cleverest and most ambitious of the Direni summoners. He dared to scheme against Lord Dagon and won. When his trick succeeded, Dagon was cast into oblivion. However, in the instant of his betrayal, Dagon struck out against the mortal who tricked him. Chimera's pact assured that he would live forever in his hometown among the happy voices of his friends and countrymen. Twisting the literal words of Chimera's pact, Dagon scooped up tiny Caecili Island, a small island off the coast of Northmoor, and hurled it into the void. All Chimera's friends and countrymen were instantly killed, though the sounds of their voices remained to torment Chimera's memory. Chimera was condemned to live forever, to grow progressively older and crippled with arthritis, and to contemplate the tragic consequences of his defiance of the fate and fortune in cheating a Daedra lord. The armor of the Savior's hide. Created by the Daedra lord Malakath, this armor has the marvelous property of turning the blow of an oathbreaker. Chimera tricked Dagon into swearing an oath against the powers which he had no intention of keeping. The hide of the Savior turned Dagon's titanic fury long enough for Chimera to deliver his own attack, an incantation invoked upon Dagon's protonymic, i.e., incantory true name. Unfortunately, like many of Malakath's gifts, the armor is a mixed blessing. It also makes its wearer exceptionally vulnerable to magical attacks, so one should only wear it for particular occasions. Dagon's protonymic. Chimera used Dagon's protonymic in an incantation to invoke a sorcery that would gradually drain all of Dagon's power into the void. Chimera miscalculated, however, not realizing that Dagon's resistance would slow the draining of his power, even if it could not stop it. As a result, Dagon had the time to curse Chimera with a literal fulfillment of the terms of his bargain with Chimera. Rather than let his power drain into the void, Dagon cast it all into his curse. As a result, Caecili Island was cast into the void, all its citizens were horribly slain, and Chimera was condemned to live forever among the ruins of his greatest ambition. The Chapel of the Innocent Quarry. Chimera believes that Dagon had Caecili Island established as the site of the Chapel of the Innocent Quarry to personally mock and torment Chimera. The green crystal structure was created by enchantments, and is the only building on the island erected since it was ripped from Tamriel and loosed in the void. The Spear. Supposedly, the Spear of Bitter Mercy used in the wild hunts could not be handled by any mortal or immortal save the one sanctified to the hunt and bound by its strictures. However, Chimera has determined that though the spear's power is great, it is not unlimited, and that certain enchanted items, for example the armor of the Savior's hide, forged by Malakath, are sufficient to protect a mortal or immortal bearer from its maleficent energies.
Purloined Shadows by Wageen Yarth, a chill tale recounting the theft of Nocturnal's cowl. Chapter 1. The candle was lit, and the thief was standing there, blinking, caught. She was young, rather dirty, wearing ragged black clothes that were surely quite smart and expensive weeks ago when she had stolen them from one of the city's best tailors. The look of surprise slipped from her face, and she took on a blank expression as she put the gold back on the table. "What are you doing here?" the man with the candle asked, stepping from the shadows. "That's a stupid question," the girl replied, frowning. "I'm obviously robbing you." "Since nothing I have is missing," the man smiled, glancing at the gold on the table, "I would have to say that you're not robbing me. Attempting to rob me, perhaps. The question I have is, why? You know who I am, I assume. You didn't just come in through an unlocked door." "I've stolen from everyone else. I've taken soul gems from the Mages Guild. I've robbed the treasury of the most secure fortress. I cheated the Archbishop of Julianos. I even pickpocketed the Emperor Pelagius at his coronation. I thought it was your turn." "I'm flattered," the man nodded. "Now that your ambition has been thwarted, what will you do? Flee? Perhaps retire?" "Teach me," the girl replied, a little grin finding its way unconsciously on her face. "I picked all your locks. I slipped past all your wards. You designed them. You know how difficult that was for someone without training. I didn't come here for 6 gold pieces. I came here to prove myself. Make me your student." The Master of Stealth looked at the little girl burglar. "Your skill is not in need of training. Your planning is adequate, but I can help you with that. What is without hope is your ambition. You are past stealing for your livelihood. Now you steal for the pleasure of it, for the challenge. That's a personality trait which is incurable and will lead you to an early grave." "Haven't you ever wanted to steal that which can't be stolen?" the girl asked. "Something that would make your name known forever?" The Master did not answer. He only frowned. "Clearly I was fooled by your reputation," she shrugged and opened a window. "I thought you might want a willing accomplice on some great act of thievery which would go down in history. Like you said, my skill at planning is only adequate. I didn't have in mind an escape route, but this will have to do." The burglar slipped down the sheer wall, dashed across the shadowy courtyard, and within a few minutes was back at her room in the rundown tavern. The Master was waiting for her there in the dark. "I didn't see you go past me," she gasped. "You turned on the street when you heard the owl call," he replied. "The most important tool in the thieves' repertoire is distraction, either planned or improvised. I suppose your lessons have begun." "And what is the final test?" the girl smiled. When he told her, she could only stare. She had, it seemed, not misunderstood his reputation for daring. Not at all. Chapter 2. For the week leading up to the 8th of Hearthfire, the skies above Rindale were dark and alive as clouds of crows blotted out the sun. Their guttural squawks and groans deafened all. The peasants wisely bolted their doors and windows, praying to survive that most unholy of days. On the night of the summoning, the birds fell silent. Their black, unblinking eyes followed the witch's march into the glen. There were no moons to light the way, only the leader's single torch in the gloom. Their white robes appeared as indistinct shapes, like the faintest of ghosts. A single tall tree stood in the middle of the clearing, every branch thick with crows, watching the procession without moving. The lead witch placed the torch at the base of the tree, and her 17 followers formed a circle and began their slow, strange, wailing chant. As they sang, the glow of the torch began to change. It did not diminish at all, but its color became more and more gray, so it seemed a pulsating wave of ash had fallen on the witches. Then it grew darker still, so that for a moment, though the fire yet burned, it was darkest night in the forest. The penumbra continued until the torch was burning with a color without a name, emptiness beyond mere blackness. It cast a glow, but it was an unnatural scintillation falling on the witches. Their robes of white became black. The Dunmer among them had eyes of green and ivory white flesh. The Nords appeared black as coal. The crows watching overhead were as pure white as the witches' cloaks. The Daedra Princess Nocturnal stepped out of the pit of uncolor. She stood in the center of the circle, the tree of pallid crows her throne, aloof, as the witches continued their chanting, dropping their robes to prostrate themselves naked before their great mistress. Wrapping her night cloak around her, she smiled at their song. It spoke of her mystery, of veiled beauty, of eternal shadows, and a divine future when the sun burns no more. Nocturnal let her cloak slide from her shoulders and was naked. Her witches did not raise their head from the ground, but continued their hymn of darkness. "Now," said the girl to herself. She had been up in the tree all day, dressed in a ridiculous suit of mock crows. It was uncomfortable, but when the witches had arrived, she forgot all her aches and concentrated on being perfectly still, like the other crows in the tree. It had taken considerable planning and study between her and the Master of Stealth to find the glen, and to learn what to expect in the summoning of Nocturnal. Gently, silently, the burglar eased herself down the branches of the tree, coming closer and closer to the Daedra Princess. She let herself break her concentration for just a moment, and wondered where the Master was. He had been confident in the plan. He had said that when Nocturnal dropped her cloak, there would be a distraction, and it could be quickly taken in that instant provided the girl was in position at the precise right moment. The girl climbed along the lowest of branches, carefully pushing aside the crows that were, as the Master said, transfixed by the princess in her naked beauty. The girl was now close enough, if she only reached out her arm, to touch Nocturnal's back. The song was rising to a crescendo, and the girl knew that the ceremony would soon be over. Nocturnal would clothe herself before the witches ended the chant, and the chance to take the cloak would be over. The girl gripped the tree branch tightly as her mind raced. Could it be that the master was not here at all? Was this conceivably the entire test? Was it only to show that it could be done, not to do it? The girl was furious. She had done everything perfectly, but the so-called master of stealth had proven himself a coward. Perhaps he had taught her a little in the months that it took to plan this, but what was it worth? Only one thing made her smile. On that night, when she had stolen into his stronghold, she had kept one single gold piece, and he had never suspected it. It was symbolic as stealing the cloak of Nocturnal in its way, proving that the master thief could be robbed. The girl was so lost in her mind that she thought she imagined it for a moment when a man's voice yelled out from the darkness, "Mistress!" The next words she knew she didn't imagine. "Mistress! A thief! Behind you!" The witches raised their heads and screamed, ruining the sanctity of the ceremony as they charged forward. The crows awoke and burst from the tree in an explosion of feathers and toad-like cries. Nocturnal herself whirled around, affixing the girl with her black eyes. "Who art thee who dares profane?" the princess hissed, as the pitch shadows flew from her body, enveloping the girl in their lethal chill. In the last instant, before she was swallowed alive by darkness, the girl looked to the ground and saw that the cloak was gone, and she answered, as she understood, "Oh, who am I? I'm the distraction."
Racial Phylogeny. Notes on Racial Phylogeny and Biology, 7th edition, by the Council of Healers, Imperial University. After much analysis of living specimens, the Council long ago determined that all races of elves and humans may mate with each other and bear fertile offspring. Generally, the offspring bear the racial traits of the mother, though some traces of the father's race may also be present. It is less clear whether the Orgonians and Khajiit are infertile with both humans and elves. Though there have been many reports throughout the eras of children from these unisons, as well as stories of unisons with Daedra, there have been no well-documented offspring. Khajiit differ from humans and elves, not only their skeletal and dermal physiology, the fur that covers their bodies, but their metabolism and digestion as well. Argonians, like the Drow, appear to be a semi-aquatic troglophile form of humans, though it is by no means clear whether the Argonians should be classified with Drow, man, mare, or, in this author's opinion, certain tree-dwelling lizards in Black Marsh. The reproductive biology of orcs is at present not well understood, and the same is true of goblins, trolls, harpies, Drow, Tserski, Imga, various Daedra, and many others. Certainly there have been cases of intercourse between these races, generally in the nature of rape or magical seduction, but there have been no documented cases of pregnancy. Still, the infertility of these creatures and the civilized hominids has yet to be empirically established or refuted, likely due to the deep cultural differences. Surely any normal Besmer or Breton impregnated by an orc would keep that shame to herself. And there's no reason to suppose that an orc maiden impregnated by a human would not be likewise ostracized by her society. Regrettably, our oaths as healers keep us from forcing a coupling to satisfy our scientific knowledge. We do know, however, that the sloth of Thras are hermaphrodites in their youth, and later reabsorb their reproductive organs once they are old enough to move about on land. It can be safely assumed that they are not infertile with man or mare. One might further wonder whether the proper classification of these same races, to use the imprecise but useful term, should be made from the assumption of a common heritage, and the differences between them have arisen from magical experimentation, the manipulation of the so-called earth bones, or from gradual changes from one generation to the next.
Reality and other falsehoods. Summary of the basic principles of alteration magic. It is easy to confuse illusion and alteration. Both schools of magic attempt to create what is not there. The difference is in the rules of nature. Illusion is not bound by them, while alteration is. This may seem to indicate that alteration is the weaker of the two, but this is not true. Alteration creates a reality that is recognized by everyone. The illusion's reality is only in the mind of the caster and the target. And to master alteration, first accept that reality is a falsehood. There is no such thing. Our reality is a perception of greater forces impressed upon us for their amusement. Some say that these forces are the gods, others that they are something beyond the gods. For the wizard, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the appeal couched in a manner that cannot be denied. It must be insistent without being insulting. To cast alteration spells is to convince a greater power that it will be easier to change reality as requested than to leave it alone. Do not assume that these forces are sentient. Our best guess is that they are like the wind and water, persistent but not thoughtful. Just like directing the wind or water, diversions are easier than outright resistance. Express the spell as a subtle change, and it is more likely to be successful.
You're a bit pale. Need a drink? Come on, take a few sips from me, my love. Fall to my blade. Well done. Thank you, love, for saving me.
What's that? Looks like the boss is at it again. Why? What's he doing now?
He's on one of his drunk rants again. Except this time he's challenging everyone to a duel over in the hole. We've got him locked in there now, but he's still challenging anyone that looks crooked at him.
Someone should let that cat loose. That'd shut him up real quick.
Hey, don't say that too loud. You don't want it getting back to him.
Over here.
Where are you?
I'll make sure they regret it.
Nope.
I can't thank you enough.
What are you waiting for? I know you want to kill me. Now's your chance. One of you get in here. I can put all of you down.
I can't see shit.
Send another one in here. Send two. I don't care.
Someone there.
What was that?
Set myself an island.
You're dead. You hear me? Dead! Huh? Huh?
Spare coin for a poor old woman.
Did you know that this was built by Ysgramor himself? Just a hint to what the cities in Atmora must have looked like.
It's so good to see you again. And grant peace to these departed souls. Oh, thank you. Divines bless your kind heart. The divine smile on a charitable soul.
May the gods watch over. Everyone says Jorland Greymane is the best smith in Skyrim. I plan to change a few minds about that. Look at that edge. Still sharp. I'll present this to the Jarl later. As for you, let me show you some smithing techniques. Whether it's armor you need or a new blade, come see me.
We're one of the same kind, you and I. I'm glad to have met you.
Got something for just about everybody in here. Give a holler if you have any questions. Have you taken care of that little problem? Thank you, thank you! Azura's prophecy always guides you to fortune. Speaking of fortune, here. Everything I earned from my last shipment. It's yours. Do come again.
elf.
Finest fish here, caught daily.
Fruits, fresh off the boat.
Arms and armor,
The freshest in
forged by a
Skyrim.
master craftsman.
Keep the cold at bay with our spiced wine.
This place sells a lot.
Something troubling you? I'll listen.
I've completed the numbers job.
If you don't watch it, I may actually start to respect you. Job well done.
I'm ready for some extra work.
Great. What do you want to do?
Do you have any numbers jobs?
These marks keep their ledgers all neat and tidy, but they're ripe for some change, if you know what I mean. Take it?
I'll do it.
Good. Here's your assignment. Oh, the bag.
How do you do things?
Ripe fruit and fresh vegetables.
Take a good look around. I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. If not, let me know. I might have it stored away.
Use your smarts.
Can we walk for a while?
Which college he meant.
There's someone there. With 3 beers down, the orcs still frown. And bid the elf goodbye. But none could know it was not for sure. Someone had.
Mercer's been here. I hope we aren't too late.
Those bandits back there.
Brynjolf and I found them like that. Mercer's doing. We have to catch up to him before it's too late.
I'm ready, let's go.
We should tread carefully. I wouldn't be surprised if he's left behind a few surprises for us.
I can't wait to get my hands around that bastard's neck.
What are the eyes of the Falmer?
A few years before Mercer murdered Gallus, the guild took in a thief who specialized in dwarven antiquities. The thief had broken into a nobleman's home somewhere in Windhelm and made off with a small figurine of a snow elf with crystalline eyes.
A snow elf?
Aye. That's what the Falmer were known as long ago, before they became the blind monstrosities they are today. When Gallus took one look at the statue, he knew it was something special. He took it right up to Enther at the College of Winterhold. Didn't take long for Enther to find a book in the college's library that told of Erkenthand and a great statue with gemmed eyes within.
So the eyes of the Falmer are gems?
Not just ordinary gems. They are said to be flawlessly cut and as big as a man's head. Can you imagine how much they're worth? Gallus and Mercer spent the better part of a month infiltrating Erkenthand, but the dwarves had protected the place far too well. There were just too many obstacles blocking the way. The plans were shelved, and the rest is history.
Do you think Mercer knows we're here?
The lass seems to think old Mercer is pulling a fast one on us, leading us here and letting the dwarven constructs wear us down. I've learned to trust her lead at this point. After all, we Nightingales need to stick together, eh?
Mercer will pay.
Wait a moment. What's that? It's Mercer. Look, down there.
I'm on it, lass. Damn it, there's no way through.
He's toying with us. He wants us to follow.
Aye, lass, and we'll be ready for it. Let's keep moving. Look at the size of this place. Have you ever seen anything like it in your life, lass?
Can't say that I have. Imagine the riches hidden within these walls.
Promise a painful end. Just as I was getting warmed up.
Darkness.
Shore's bones. Look at that monstrosity.
It's a dwarven centurion. Very tough.
We can take the beast on or sneak around. It's your call, lass. We're right behind you.
This is where we saw Mercer. We must be...
The stench. This place reeks of Falmer.
This must be their hive. We'll have to keep silent if we want to avoid drawing their attention. Even a farmer don't deserve the pain these implements must have inflicted. The dwarves were a cruel race. There's a mass of the farmer in this chamber. We can sneak through or take them down. I don't care. As long as we get to Mercer.
Aye. Whatever you want to do, we're with you. This is it. We do this for Gallus and for the Guild.
Yes, love? All right, sweetheart.
He's here, and he hasn't seen us yet. Brynjolf, watch the door.
Aye, lass. Nothing's get by me.
Climb down that ledge. See if you can...
Karliah, when will you learn you can't get the drop on me? When Brynjolf brought you before me, I could feel a sudden shift in the wind. And at that moment, I knew it would end with one of us at the end of a blade.
Give me the key, Mercer.
What's Karliah been filling your head with? Tales of thieves with honor? Oaths rife with falsehoods and broken promises? Nocturnal doesn't care about you, the key, or anything having to do with the Guild.
It's not about Nocturnal, this is personal.
Revenge, is it? Have you learned nothing from your time with us? When will you open your eyes and realize how little my actions differ from yours? Both of us lie, cheat, and steal to further our own end.
The difference is I still have honor.
It's clear you'll never see the skeleton key as I do, as an instrument of limitless wealth. Instead, you've chosen to fall over your own foolish code.
If anyone falls, it will be you.
Then the die is cast, and once again my blade will taste Nightingale blood. Karliah, I'll deal with you after I rid myself of your irksome companions. In the meantime, perhaps you and Brynjolf should get better acquainted.
What's happening? I can't stop myself.
Your life is mine!
I'm sorry, lass. I can't.
Skeleton key in the eye, and let's get out of here.
No luck there, lass. Something must have fallen on the other side of the door because it isn't moving.
We have to find another way out
Sorry, lass. I've got important things to do. We'll speak another time.
I can't believe it's over. 25 years in exile, and just like that, it's done. All that remains is to ensure the safe return of the skeleton key.
Sounds like it will be a simple task.
I'm afraid it's not that simple. When the skeleton key was stolen from the Twilight Sepulchre, our access to the inner sanctum was removed. The only way to bring it back will be through the Pilgrim's Path.
I take it you never used the Pilgrim's Path.
It wasn't created for the Nightingales. It was created to test those who wish to serve Nocturnal in other ways. As a consequence, I have no knowledge of what you'll be facing.
Then we'd best get started.
Brynjolf is needed back at the Thieves' Guild to keep order while you're away. And I can't bear to face Nocturnal after my failure to protect the key. I'm afraid you'll have to face the end of your journey alone.
Don't worry, I'll return the key.
Take this with you. I'm not certain if it will help within the walls of the Sepulchre, but I certainly don't need it as much as you. I've had this bow almost my entire life, and it's never let me down. I hope it brings you the same luck.
Sorry, lass. I've got important things to do.
You alright, Trouble?
About surviving out here.
Aye.
I'm exhausted.
Maybe we should rest for the night.
Could you set up a campsite?
I'll pitch a tent for you anytime, sweetheart. As you wish. Call me when you're ready to go, love.
Letter from Kaiden, 30 mid-year 201. Lirya, I thought of you this morning and it made me smile. Don't think you know quite what that means to me. Spent so much of my life not knowing I could feel like this. Can't regret it though. Probably sounds mad to say that, but a man who's known hunger appreciates a meal better. Sweetheart, this man has not just known hunger. He's ravenous. Tonight, if you're willing, I'll be appreciating you over and over. Kai. Private Letter 4. Dear Raven, this will be my last letter to you. The last few weeks, I have tracked my brother. He went back into the mountains in an attempt to lose me. I don't know how I managed, but I kept his trail and managed to follow him. I had hoped that he would cross the mountains back into Cyrodiil, but instead he went east. About a week ago, I found a dead troll, killed with multiple deep stab wounds to the head. My brother's work, I suspect. Though he would normally never have been able to go toe-to-claw with the Frost Troll, this horrifies me the most. Where will it end? A few days ago, I followed his trail to a Nordic ruin in the mountains. If the old map I took is correct, this ruin must be Arkwind Point. My brother has definitely gone in, but he's not come out. I've kept watch on the ruin from a safe distance for some days now, but nothing has happened. At night, though, I hear sounds. Growls and howls, the stirring of old bones and something darker. My brother is not making these noises. I fear for the worst. I fear more now than I ever have in my life. I know my brother is dead, killed by the horrors within the ruin, but I cannot turn back. My brother, a fool as he is, deserves better than to rot in a tomb until the end of time. Also, my father's helm cannot remain there. It needs to be returned. As I write this, my hands tremble, not because of the cold, but because I realize my impending doom. My brother was right. I am a disgrace to the Orin name. What have I done? I'm nothing. If anything, this is a test. Maybe by the gods. Maybe by Orin Bearclaw himself. A test to prove myself worthy of my name. To be honest, I have little faith in myself, but to abandon this cause would be worse than death. As I write this, I feel the eyes of my father on me, those eyes filled with hope. Maybe there is some? I have a decent sword arm. I left home with equipment from the Fighters Guild. As I stand to face my destiny, I feel calmness wash over me. My hand no longer shakes. But my hand grips my sword tighter than ever. I know my ancestors watch over me today. May this letter find you in good health, my friend. If it is my last, then I have met my end in Arkwind Point, and this writing is all that remains. I'll be with my family, with my father, and I will not have to be ashamed in their presence. All the best to you. Sincerely, Gilius Orin. The real Nerevar. This Telvanni retainer's informal history of Nerevar lists no sources. When the Dunmer followed Veloth the Morrowind, there were many warring clans with no law or leader in common. One Dunmer warlord, Nerevar, had the ambition to rule all the Dunmer. In that time, House Dwemer were great enchanters, so Nerevar went in secret to a Dwemer smith and asked for an enchanted ring that would help him. This ring gave its wearer great powers of persuasion. For safety, it was enchanted to instantly kill anyone who wore it, except Nerevar. The ring was called Moon and Star, and it helped Nerevar unite the various clans into the First Council. Later, however, dispute over religion divided the council, with House Dwemer and House Dagoth on one side, and all the other houses on the other. Dwemer and Dagoth invited Orc and Nord clans as allies and held northwest Morrowind, while Nerevar mustered the other houses and nomad tribes and marched to meet the Dwemer-Dagoth Westerner forces. The armies met at Red Mountain, a Dwemer stronghold. The Dwemer were defeated with great slaughter, and terrible sorceries were used, resulting in the utter extermination of House Dwemer, House Dagoth, and their allies. Nerevar was killed in the battle, and his ring lost, but Nerevar's alliance survives in Morrowind's ruling political institution, the Great Council. The Saber Cat. When he was still a kitten, the Saber Cat was adopted by the Brotherhood of Scribes to be raised as a pet, and as a guardian of their sanctuary as well. The purpose of this brotherhood was to collect and translate in common language all the books, scrolls, notes, journals, well, anything written, for the free use of anybody needing an intelligible version of text. Growing up, the Saber Cat showed extraordinary talents, as he learned to speak, but without the terrible accent the Khajiit have, to read and write like any other sentient being. As he was able to do the same job as the other brothers, and usually better than most of them, he was raised to be a full-fledged brother. Years passed, and the Saber Cat worked so hard, doing the very basic duties with as much quality and care as the major tasks. He finally became a pillar of the Brotherhood, using his time and energy for the greater good. 7 years have passed, and the voice of freedom began to sing in his ear, and the wild beast he really was began to want out, yearning to live his real life in the real world. So, one day, after thanking the brothers and sisters, he left the Brotherhood and went back to the wilds to live as nature intended, as a Saber Cat. Just before his departure, he made a stop at Brother John Kevin's cell to devour him as an appetizer of his new life. All the brothers and sisters mourned his leaving, but nobody had a word for the poor Brother John Kevin. They raised a small icon in memory of Salom, the talking saber cat, in the Hall of History of the Brotherhood. And then they returned to work.
Raymanada, a fragmented mythical recounting of the conception of Rayman and the return of the Kim El Adabal with the people of Tamriel. Chapter 1. Sancrator and the Birth of Rayman. And in those days the empire of the Cyrodiils was dead, save in memory only, for through war and slug famine and iniquitous rulers, the west split from the east, and Colovia's estrangement lasted some 400 of years. And the earth was sick from this sundering. Once worthy western kings, of Anvil and Sarkal, of Falkreath and Deladil, became through pride and habit as like thief barons, and forgot covenant. In the Heartland things were no better, as arcanists and false North princes lay in drugged stupor or the studies of vileness, and no one sat on the throne in dusted generations. Snakes and the warnings of snakes went unheeded, and the land bled with ghosts and deepest holes unto cold harbors. It is said that even the Kim El Adabal, the amulet of the kings of glory, had been lost, and its peoples saw no reason to find it. And it was in this darkness that King Hrall set out from the lands beyond the Twill with a sortie of questing knights, numbered 18 less 1, all of them western sons and daughters. For Hrall had seen in his visions the snakes to come, and sought to heal all the borders of his forebears. And to this host appeared at last a spirit, who resembled none other than El Estia, queen of ancient times, who bore in her left hand the dragon fire of the Akatosh, and in her right hand the jewels of the covenant, and on her breast a wound that split void onto her mangled feet. And seeing El Estia and Kim El Adabal, Hrall and his knights wailed, and set to their knees, and prayed for all things to become as right. Unto them the spirits said, I am the healer of all men, and the mother of dragons. But as you have run so many times from me, so shall I run until you learn my pain, which renders you, and all this land, dead. And the spirit fled from them, and they split among hills and forests to find her, all grieving that they had become a villainous people. Hrall and his shield thane were the only ones to find her, and the king spoke to her, saying, I love you, sweet Aless, sweet wife of Shor, and Oriel, and the sacred bull, and would render this land alive again, not through pain, but through a return to the dragon fires of covenant, to join east and west, and throw off all ruin. And the shield thane bore witness to the spirit, opening naked to his king, carving on a nearby rock the words, and Hrall did love unto a hillock, before dying in the sight of their union. When the 15 other knights found King Hrall, they saw him dead after his labors against a mound of mud, and they parted each in their way, and some went mad, and the 2 that returned to their homelands beyond Twill would say nothing of Hrall, and acted ashamed for him. But after 9 months, that mound of mud became as a small mountain, and there were whispers among the shepherds and bulls. A small community of believers gathered around that growing hill during the days of its first churning, and they were the first to name it the Golden Hill, Sancrator. And it was the shepherdess Sedyenna who dared climb to the hill when she heard his first cry, and at its peak she saw what it had yielded, an infant she named Rayman, which is Light of Man. And in the child's forehead was the Kim El Adabal, alive with the dragon fires of yore and divine promise, and none dared obstruct Sedyenna when she climbed the steps of White Gold Tower to place the babe Rayman on his throne, where he spoke as an adult, saying, I am Cyrodiil come. Chapter 2. The Chevalier Reynald, Blade of the Pig. And in the days of Interregnum, the Kim El Adabal was lost again, amid the petty wars of gone heathen kings. West and East knew no union then, and all the lands outside of them saw Cyrodiil as a nest of snakemen and snakes. And for 4 more hundreds of years did the seed of Rayman stay sundered, with only the machinations of a group of loyal knights keeping all its borders from throwing wide. These loyal knights did go by no name then, but were known by their eastern swords and painted eyes, and it was whispered that they were descended from the bodyguard of old Raymond. One of their number, called the Chevalier Reynald, discovered the prowess of Cuchulacain and then supported him towards the throne. Only later would it be revealed that Reynald did this thing to come closer to Talos, and on Stormcrown, the glorious yet Emperor Tiber Septim. Only later still that he was under instruction by a pig. Long Glory was wife to all the knights of the Dragon Banner, who knew no other, and were brothers before beyond many seas, and now were brothers under the law named the Blade Surrender of Pale Pass. And having vampire blood, these brother knights lived for ages through, and passed Raymond, and then kept guard over his ward, the coiled king, Versadu Shai. The snake captain Vershu became Reynald, became the protector of the northern west, when the black dart was hooked into Savirian Korak. Here, torn pages indicate that the rest of this ancient book has been lost. Report: Disaster at Ionith by Lord Potreed, Chairman. An Imperial scripted dispatch concerning Uriel V's invasion of Akavir. Part 1. Preparations. The Emperor's plans for the invasion of Akavir were laid in the 270s, when he began the conquest of the small island kingdoms that lie between Tamriel and Akavir. With the fall of Black Harbor and Esroniet in 282, Uriel V was already looking ahead to the ultimate prize. He immediately ordered extensive renovations to the port, which would serve as the marshalling point for the invasion force and as the main supply source throughout the campaign. At this time, he also began the construction of the many large ocean-going transports that would be needed for the final crossing to Akavir, in which the navy was previously deficient. Thus it can be seen that the Emperor's preparations for the invasion were laid well in advance, even before the conquest of Esroniet was complete, and was not a sudden whim, as some have charged. When Prince Bashaman yielded Esroniet to imperial authority in 284, the Emperor's full attention could be devoted to planning for the Akaviri campaign. Naval expeditions were dispatched in 285 and 286 to scout the sea lanes and coastlands of Akavir, and various imperial intelligence agents, both magical and mundane, were employed to gather information. On the basis of all this information, the kingdom of the Sieski in the southwest of Akavir was selected as the initial target for the invasion. Meanwhile, the Emperor was gathering his expeditionary force. A new Far East fleet was created for the campaign, which for a time dwarfed the rest of the navy. It is said to be the most powerful fleet ever assembled in the history of Tamriel. The 5th, 7th, 10th, and 14th legions were selected for the initial landing, with the 9th and 17th to follow as reinforcements once the beachhead was secured. While this may seem to the layman a relatively small fraction of the army's total manpower, it must be remembered that this expeditionary force would have to be maintained at the end of a long and tenuous supply line. In addition, the Emperor and the army command believed that the invasion would not be strongly opposed, at least at first. Perhaps more crucially, the navy had only enough heavy transport capacity to move 4 legions at a time. It should be noted here that the Commission does not find fault with the Emperor's preparations for the invasion. Based on the information available prior to the invasion, which, while obviously deficient in hindsight, great effort had been made to accumulate, the Commission believes that the Emperor did not act recklessly or imprudently. Some have argued that the expeditionary force was too small. The Commission believes that, on the contrary, even if shipping could have been found to transport and supply more legions, an impossibility without crippling the trade of the entire empire, this would have merely added to the scale of the disaster. It would not have averted it. Neither could the rest of the empire be denuded of legions. The memory of the Comoran usurper was still fresh, and the Emperor believed, and this Commission agrees, that the security of the empire precluded a large concentration of military force outside of Tamriel. If anything, the Commission believes that the expeditionary force was too large. Despite the creation of 2 new legions during his reign, and the recreation of the 5th, the loss of the expeditionary force left the empire in a dangerously weak position relative to the provinces, as the current situation makes all too clear. This suggests that the invasion of Akavir was beyond the empire's current strength. Even if the Emperor could have fielded and maintained a larger force in Akavir, the empire may have disintegrated behind him. Part 2. The Invasion of Akavir. The expeditionary force left Black Harbor on 23rd Rain's Hand 288, and with fair weather, landed in Akavir after 6 weeks at sea. The landing site was a small Sieski port at the mouth of a large river, chosen for its proximity to Tamriel, as well as its location in a fertile river valley, giving easy access to the interior, as well as good foraging for the army. All went well, at first. The Sieski had abandoned the town when the expeditionary force approached, so they took possession of it and renamed it Septimia, the first colony of the new imperial province of Akavir. While the engineers fortified the town and expanded the port facilities to serve the Far East fleet, the Emperor marched inland with 2 legions. The surrounding land was reported to be rich, well-watered fields, and meeting no resistance, the army took the next city upriver, also abandoned. This was refounded as Ionith, and the Emperor established his headquarters here, being much larger than Septimia, and better located to dominate the surrounding countryside. The expeditionary force had yet to meet any real resistance, although the legions were constantly shadowed by mounted enemy patrols which prevented any but large scouting parties from leaving the main body of the army. One thing the Emperor sorely lacked was cavalry, due to the limited space on the transport fleet, although for the time being the battle mages made up for this with magical reconnaissance. The Emperor now sent out envoys to try to contact the Sieski king or whoever ruled this land, but his messengers never returned. In retrospect, the Commission believes that valuable time was wasted in this effort while the army was stalled at Ionith, which could have been better spent in advancing quickly while the enemy was still, apparently, surprised by the invasion. However, the Emperor believed at the time that the Sieski would be overawed by the Empire's power, and he might win a province by negotiation, with no need for serious fighting. Meanwhile, the 4 legions were busy building a road between Septimia and Ionith, setting up fortified guard posts along the river, and fortifying both cities' defenses, activities which would serve them well later. Due to their lack of cavalry, scouting was limited, and communication between the 2 cities constantly threatened by enemy raiders, with which the legions were still unable to come to grips. The original plan had been to bring the 2 reinforcing legions across as soon as the initial landing had secured a port, but the fateful decision was now taken to delay their arrival and instead begin using the fleet to transport colonists. The Emperor and the Council agreed that, due to the complete abandonment of the conquered area by its native population, colonists were needed to work the fields so that the expeditionary force would not have to rely entirely on the fleet for supplies. In addition, unrest had broken out in Ineslia, athwart the supply route to Akavir, and the Council believed the 9th and 17th Legions would be better used in repacifying these territories and securing the expeditionary force's supply lines. The civilian colonists and their supplies began arriving in Septimia in mid-Hearthfire, and they took over the preparation of the fields, which had been started by the legionnaires, for a spring crop. A number of cavalry mounts were also brought over at this time, and the raids on the 2 imperial colonies subsequently fell off. Sieski emissaries also finally arrived in Ionith, purportedly to begin peace negotiations, and the expeditionary force settled in for what was expected to be a quiet winter. At this time, the Council urged the Emperor to return to Tamriel with the fleet, to deal with many pressing matters of the Empire while the army was in winter quarters, but the Emperor decided that it would be best to remain in Akavir. This turned out to be fortunate, because a large portion of the fleet, including the Emperor's flagship, was destroyed by an early winter storm during the homeward voyage. The winter storm season of 288 and 289 was unusually prolonged and exceptionally severe, and prevented the fleet from returning to Akavir as planned with additional supplies. This was reported to the Emperor via battle mage, and it was agreed that the expeditionary force could survive on what supplies it had on hand until the spring. Part 3. The destruction of the expeditionary force. The winter weather in Akavir was also much more severe than expected. Due to the supply problems and the addition of thousands of civilians, the expeditionary force was on tight rations. To make matters worse, the Sieski raiders returned in force and harried any foraging and scouting parties outside the walls of the 2 cities. The several watch forts on the road between Septimia and Ionith were captured during blizzards, and the rest had to be abandoned as untenable. As a result, communication between the 2 cities had to be conducted entirely by magical means, a continuing strain on the Legion's battle mages. On Fifth Sun's dawn, a large entourage of Sieski arrived at Ionith claiming to bring a peace offer from the Sieski king. That night, these treacherous envoys murdered the guards at one of the city gates and let in a strong party of their comrades who were waiting outside the city walls. Their clear intention was to assassinate the Emperor, foiled only by the vigilance and courage of troopers of the 10th who were guarding his palace. Once the alarm was raised, the Sieski inside the city were hunted down and killed to the last man. Needless to say, this was the end of negotiations between the Emperor and the Sieski. The arrival of spring only brought worse troubles. Instead of the expected spring rains, a hot, dry wind began to blow from the east, continuing with varying strength through the entire summer. The crops failed, and even the river, which in the previous year had been navigable by small boats far upstream of Ionith, was completely dried up by sun's height. It is unknown if this was due to a previously unknown weather pattern unique to Akavir, or if the Syaski manipulated the weather through magical means. The Commission leans towards the former conclusion, as there is no direct evidence of the Syaski possessing such fearsome arcane power, but the latter possibility cannot be entirely ruled out. Due to prolonged bad weather, the supply fleet was late in setting out from Black Harbor. It finally left port in early Second Seed, but was again severely mauled by storms and limped into Septimia 8 weeks later, much reduced. Because of the increasingly desperate supply situation in Akavir, the Emperor dispatched most of his battle mage corps with the fleet to assist it in weathering the storms which seemed likely to continue all summer. At this time, the Council urged the Emperor to abandon the invasion and to return to Tamriel with the expeditionary force, but he again refused, noting that the fleet was no longer large enough to transport all 4 legions at once. The Commission agrees that leaving 1 or more legions behind in Akavir to await the return of the fleet would have damaged army morale. But the Commission also notes that the loss of 1 legion would have been preferable to the loss of the entire expeditionary force. It is the unanimous opinion of the Commission that this was the last point at which complete disaster might have been averted. Once the decision was made to send the fleet back for reinforcements and supplies, events proceeded to their inevitable conclusion. From this point on, much less is known about what transpired in Akavir. With most of the battle mages assisting the fleet, communication between the expeditionary force and Tamriel was limited, especially as the situation in Akavir worsened and the remaining battle mages had their powers stretched to the limit, attending to all the needs of the legions. However, it appears that the Syaski may have also been actively interfering with the mages in some unknown manner. Some of the mages in Akavir reported their powers being abnormally weak, and the mages of the War College in Cyrodiil, who were handling communications for the Council, reported problems linking up with their compatriots in Akavir, even between master and pupil of long training. The Commission urges that the War College make a particular study of the arcane powers of the Syaski, should the Empire ever come into conflict with Akavir again. What is known is that the Emperor marched out of Ionith in mid-sun's height, leaving only small garrisons to hold the cities. He had learned that the Syaski were amassing their forces on the other side of a mountain range to the north, and he intended to smash their army before it could gather full strength and capture their supplies, of which he was in desperate need. This rapid advance seems to have taken the Syaski by surprise, and the expeditionary force crossed the mountains and fell onto their camp, routing the Syaski army and capturing its leader, a noble of some kind. But the Emperor was soon forced to retreat, and the legions suffered heavily on their retreat to Ionith. The Emperor now found himself besieged in Ionith, cut off from the small garrison at Septimia, which was also besieged. By this time, it seems that the efforts of the few remaining battle mages were devoted entirely to creating water to keep the army alive, a skill not normally emphasized at the War College. The fleet had arrived safely back to Black Harbor thanks to the Battle Mage Corps, but all attempts to return to Akavir were frustrated by a series of ever more savage storms that battered Esroniad throughout the rest of 289. The Council's last contact with the Emperor was in early Frostfall. By Evening Star, the Council was extremely worried about the situation in Akavir and ordered the fleet to sail regardless of the risk. Despite the continued storms, the fleet managed to press on to Akavir. Hope was raised when contact was made with the Emperor's battle mage, who reported that Ionith still held out. Plans were quickly laid for the expeditionary force to break out of Ionith and fall back on Septimia, where the fleet would meet them. This was the last direct contact with the expeditionary force. The fleet arrived in Septimia to find its garrison under savage assault from a large Syaski army. The battle mages with the fleet threw back the enemy long enough for the survivors to embark and the fleet to withdraw. The few survivors of the expeditionary force who reached Septimia told how the Emperor had led the army out of Ionith by night 2 days earlier, successfully breaking through the enemy lines, but then being surrounded by overwhelming forces on the road to Septimia. They told of a heroic last stand by the Emperor and the 10th Legion, which allowed a remnant of the 14th to reach Septimia. 2 survivors of the 10th arrived in Septimia that night, having slipped through the enemy lines during their undisciplined victory celebrations. These men confirmed having seen the Emperor die, cut down by enemy arrows as he rallied the 10th's shield wall. Part 4. Conclusion. The Commission believes that the invasion of Akavir was doomed from the start for several reasons, none of which could have been foreseen beforehand, unfortunately. Despite the extensive intelligence gathering, the expeditionary force was clearly unprepared for the situation in Akavir. The unexpected weather, which plagued the army and navy, was particularly disastrous. Without the loss of a majority of the Far East fleet during the campaign, the expeditionary force could have been withdrawn in 289. The weather also forced the Emperor to assign most of his battle mage corps to the fleet, leaving him without their valuable assistance during the fighting which soon followed. And of course, the unexpected drought which struck Aynith during 289 dashed the hopes of supplying the army locally, and left the expeditionary force in an untenable situation when besieged in Aynith. The Sieski were also much stronger than intelligence reports had suggested. Information on the size of the army the Sieski were eventually able to field against the expeditionary force is vague, as the only serious fighting took place after regular communications were cut off between the Emperor and the Council. Nevertheless, it seems likely that the Sieski outnumbered the Emperor's forces by several times, as they were able to force 4 crack legions into retreat and then keep them under siege for several months. As was stated previously, the Commission declines to criticize the initial decision to invade Akavir. Based on what was known at the time, the plan seems sound. It is only with the benefit of hindsight does it become obvious that the invasion had very little chance of success. Nevertheless, the Commission believes several valuable lessons can be taken from this disaster. First, the Sieski may have extremely powerful arcane forces at their command. The possibility that they may have manipulated the weather across such a vast region seems incredible, and it should be noted that 3 commissioners strongly objected to this paragraph even being included in this report. But the Commission believes that this matter deserves urgent investigation. The potential danger is such that even the slight possibility must be taken seriously. Second, the Sieski appear to possess no navy to speak of. The expeditionary force was never threatened by sea, and the Far East fleet fought nothing but the weather. Indeed, initial plans called for a portion of the fleet to remain in Akavir for use in coastal operations, but in the event there were very few places where the large vessels of the fleet could approach the land, due to the innumerable reefs, sandbars, and islands, etc., that infested the coastal waters north and south from Septimia. Due to the utter lack of trees in the plain around Septimia and Aynith, the expeditionary force was unable to build smaller vessels which could have navigated the shallow coastal waters. Any future military expeditions against Akavir would do well to consider some way of bringing a means for inshore naval operations in order to exploit this clear advantage over the Sieski, an advantage that was sadly unexploited by the expeditionary force. Third, a much longer-term study needs to be made of Akavir before another invasion could even be contemplated. The information gathered over the 4 years prior to the invasion was extensive, but clearly inadequate. The weather conditions were completely unexpected, the Sieski much stronger than expected, and the attempted negotiations by the Emperor with the Sieski a disaster. Akavir proved alien beyond expectation, and the Commission believes any future attempt to invade Akavir should not be contemplated without much greater knowledge of the conditions, politics, and peoples of that continent than previously obtained. Finally, the Commission unanimously concludes that given what we now know, any attempt to invade Akavir is folly, at least in the present state of the Empire. The Empire's legions are needed at home. One day, a peaceful, united Empire will return to Akavir and exact severe retribution for the disaster at Aynith and for our fallen Emperor. But that day is not now, nor is it in the foreseeable future.
Response to Barrow's speech by Malvisor Battlemage. On the 14th of last seed, an illusionist by the name of Berevar Barrow gave a very ignorant speech at the chantry of Julianus in the imperial city. As ignorant speeches are hardly uncommon, there was no reason to respond to it. Unfortunately, he has since had the speech privately printed as Barrow's Speech to Battle Mages, and it's received some small, undeserved attention in academic circles. Let us put his misconceptions to rest. Barrow began his lecture with an occasionally factual account of famous battle mages, from Surin Arctus Tiber Septim's Imperial Battle Mage to Jagger Tarn Uriel Septim VII's Imperial Battle Mage. His intent was to show that where it matters, the battle mage relies on other schools of magicka. not the School of Destruction, which is supposedly a battle mage's particular forte. Allow me first to dispute these so-called historical facts. Turin Arctus did not create the golem Numidium by spells of mysticism or conjuration, as Biro alleges. The truth is that we do not know how Numidium was created, or if it was a golem or Atronach in any traditional sense of those words. Uriel V's battle mage Hassos was not an imperial battle mage. He was simply a sorcerer in the employ of the Empire. Thus which spells he casts in the various battles on Akavir are irrelevant, not to mention hearsay. Biro calls Impris Morihata's battle mage Velok, an accomplished diplomat but not a powerful student of the School of Destruction. I congratulate Biro on correctly identifying an imperial battle mage, but there are many written examples of Velok's skill in the School of Destruction. The sage Celerus, for example, wrote extensively about Velok casting the vampiric cloud on the rebellious army of Black Rose, causing their strength and skill to pass on to their opponents. What is this but an impressive example of the School of Destruction? Biro rather pathetically includes Jagger Tarn in his list of underachieving battle mages. To use an insane traitor's example of rational behavior is an untenable position. What would Biro prefer, that Tarn used the School of Destruction to destroy Tamriel by more traditional means? Biro uses his misinterpretations of history as the basis for his argument. Even if he had found 4 excellent examples from history of battle mages casting spells outside their school, and he did not, he would only have anecdotal evidence, which isn't enough to support an argument. I could easily find 4 examples of illusionists casting healing spells or night blades teleporting. There is a time and place for everything. Biro's argument, built on this shaky ground, is that the School of Destruction is not a true school. He calls it narrow and shallow as an avenue of study, and its students impatient with megalomaniac tendencies. How can one respond to this? Someone who knows nothing about casting a spell of destruction criticizing the school for being too simple. Summarizing the School of Destruction as learning how to do the maximum amount of damage in the minimum amount of time is clearly absurd, and he expounds on his ignorance by listing all the complicated factors studied in his own School of Illusion. Allow me in response to list the factors studied in the School of Destruction. The means of delivering the spell matters more in the School of Destruction than any other school, whether it is cast at touch, at a range, in concentric circles, or cast once to be triggered later. What forces must be reined in to cast the spell? Fire, lightning, or frost? And what are the advantages and dangers of each? What are the responses from different targets from the assault of different spells of destruction? What are the possible defenses and how may they be assailed? What environmental factors must be taken into account? What are the advantages of a spell of delayed damage? Biro suggests that the School of Destruction cannot be subtle, yet he forgets about all the curses that fall under the mantle of the school, sometimes affecting generation after generation in subtle yet sublime ways. The School of Alteration is a distinct and separate entity from the School of Destruction, and Biro's argument that they should be merged into one is patently ludicrous. He insists, again a man who knows nothing about the School of Alteration and Destruction is the one insisting this, that damage is part of the changing of reality dealt with by the spells of alteration. Implication is that levitation, to list a spell of alteration, is a close cousin of shockbolt, the spell of destruction. It would make as much sense to say that the School of Alteration, being all about the actuality of change, should absorb the School of Illusion, being all about the appearance of change. It certainly isn't a coincidence that a master of the School of Illusion cast this attack on the School of Destruction. Illusion is, after all about masking the truth.
You're a bit pale. Need a drink? Come on, take a few sips for me, my love.
This is my favourite part of the day.